Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Blue Baby. Blue Baby is the original heart character of this game. At least in the Flash version he was. Today he's naturally outclassed by the Keeper and the Lost because they're both harder characters, and usually they're the go-to whenever you want a challenge, because Blue Baby nowadays, while still annoying and hard, I think in most people's eyes he has become not the hard character, but more like the annoying character, just because you can't really pick up red health, and there's nothing really more frustrating than beating the room and getting red health as payout, and you just can't do anything with it. With that said, I think he's one of the most fair, or I think definitely the most fun characters to play out of the hard ones. So while the Lost and the Keeper provide a very interesting challenge, which both of them have their unique mechanics and kind of benefits and positives and negatives, Blue Baby really doesn't shine in any particular area. Devil Deal still cost a lot and you can't really get hit, but I think it does it in a much more balanced way, because with the Lost or the Keeper you can't really afford to get hit, and when there's so many games or items in the game that rely on you getting hit in order to get benefit from it, and not just the items, but mechanics in general, I think that you're very severely limited with how much you can do whenever you're playing as a character that can get hit a lot. But with Blue Baby, while you still don't want to get hit just because your health is severely limited, you still can afford to get hit, and via the combination of items or maybe how comfortable you feel on the floor, you can go down to maybe just one Spirit Heart and really trade all of your health away in order to get enough money to maybe buy a shop item. And you can't really do those decisions whenever you're playing as a character that just dies into hits. And I think that's what makes him much more unique and interesting, in the sense that he is still hard and maybe a bit annoying sometimes, but he does provide an interesting challenge in the terms of risk versus reward ratio. So for that reason, I think that is why Blue Baby is also one of my favorite characters. I also like his stat distribution, the fact that you start out with just a little higher damage multiplier, which makes him just a bit more enjoyable to play. And I think just the aesthetics of having only Spirit Hearts looks so cool. And of course you can also do a lot of things with just having Spirit Hearts, which means that you can always have the Polaroid invincibility, you can always enter both the boss trap and the mob trap rooms, and just besides that, you can really the options are open for you to even take damage yourself if, of course, you get the items. I also like the fact, which is probably the most annoying fact, there's a lot of boss items or just items in general that give you health, and they're useless on the Keeper and the Lost. So whenever you get that, so whenever you beat a room or the boss maybe, and you get a health up, it just feels like a waste. At least with Blue Baby you still get a Spirit Heart. Of course, this is not the thing probably you wanted to get, but at least you have some benefit out of it. I wish that the Lost and the Keeper would have some mechanic that would allow them to pick up health ups without actually them not doing anything. So I don't know how that would be implemented. Maybe for the Keeper you could just get a bunch of money, and maybe for the Lost you could maybe refresh your invincibility or something like that, or maybe... I'm not really sure about the Lost, because I don't think he has any unique mechanics that you can tie those effects to, but I think giving some money for the Keeper for every health you pick up would be a decent start in the right direction. So with that said, with how fun this run has been going, and just because I really enjoy playing as Blue Baby, I just kind of got sidetracked a bit. But this run is actually so far very good. It started out pretty strong itself, and it really shined when we got the second floor deal with the Devil. It had the contract from below item, which duplicates all the consumables we get after the end of the room, which is obviously good for the Shrek points, but not only that, it also allows us to get a bunch of keys and bombs, which we can use to then open chests and of course find secret rooms. We also got at some point Guppy's Tail, which is obviously one of the 3 Guppy pieces, and even better, we got Maw of the Void. And I think the thing that kind of ties it all together is definitely homing shots. And I really like how homing shots interact with a lot of items, but Maw of the Void and homing shots has to be one of my favorite things. So what you do when you have Maw of the Void, you charge up your shot and then you release it, and then there's a black circle around you which deals passive, well, not passive, I guess it is passive damage, but it's active damage because you have to charge it. But it deals damage basically to the enemies around in your circle. And if you have homing shots, not only does that circle kind of bend and contort based on where the enemies are, it also effectively increases the range of that circle. So let's say if the radius of the circle is something like 10 arbitrary units, if you have homing shots, it can actually extend to something like 15 arbitrary units. So it kind of gives you a bit more leverage to use it offensively, because with Maw of the Void, well, nobody can deny it's a good item, because it's definitely one of the best items you can hope to get. There's still that danger, especially against many enemies which are kind of stationary, have large hitboxes. You still have to get close to them in order to damage them, or maybe to use the full effect of your shot, and it can end up getting you hit more often than not. And the fact you have this advantage of some extra range is really nice whenever you kind of want to do that. Of course, the thing that kind of puts a cherry on the top that just makes this run super powerful, if this wasn't powerful enough, you also got all the 3 guppy pieces, which means we are guppy now. And the best thing is that Maw of the Void circle, the black circle that spawns around you, also spawns flies. And then, of course, because the flies deal just a bunch of damage, you can just expect that this run is gonna go well. And you can see that we are at a very good time pace here. I think this was at the 23rd minute mark or something like that, so the whole boss rush only took 3 or 4 minutes, which is usually a good sign that you're in the right direction. And usually what really messes with me when I'm trying to go fast is just the room layouts. So I end up walking into a lot of dead ends, which means I have to backtrack a lot, and over time, maybe on one floor that just isn't too bad, but when you do it on a few floors, those seconds start to add up, and at the end maybe you're late for 1 or 2 minutes. And obviously being late for something for a minute or 2 is very substantial, and it can lead you to kind of miss boss rush and hush and things like that. But thankfully, because this run was so strong, just having Guppy and Flight and all of that combined allowed me to steam rush through the game. And not only did we do boss rush and both the Utero or the Womp floors, we also managed to actually get the 5 dice room, which is kind of the same effect as a Forget Me Now, which allows us to do the Utero 1 floor again. So we're doing basically 3 or 1 extra floor, so 3 floors of Utero instead of just 2, which means that overall we're doing 1 extra floor, which of course means that we can explore more rooms, we can find 2 more secret rooms, and of course we can also be the boss, and all of that does culminate in adding just a bit of extra points at the end. And of course, if some people weren't fast enough, maybe they didn't find Guppy, or maybe if they just took a lot longer on exploring, or maybe playing the arcade on the previous floors, this is really coming back to bite them in the ass, because they might not have the time to actually do 1 extra floor, because usually 1 extra floor is much more worthwhile than going and just playing the arcade in order to get Shrek points. And even better is, we don't really have to worry about the consumables as well, because we have the deck of cards and the car battery, which means that whenever we use the deck of cards, we get 2 cards out of it. And just because of how frequently we can use it, and the fact we have Sackboy now, which means that there will be a lot of battery charges, we'll be able to use it really often, especially on the next 2 floors, because this is a round to Mega Satan, which means that we have just a bunch of floors. And usually this item is better the more floors you have, just because there's more chances for you to actually get some substantial cards, which will increase your consumables. So at this point, obviously, we're after the 2 of cards, so the 2 of clubs, the 2 of spades, and the 2 of diamonds. And we did manage to get a few 2 of spades cards, which did increase our keys to 93. So when we get basically the 2 of clubs, which increases our bombs to 90 or 100 later, than when we get a few more bombs, then we'll be in a really good spot consumable wise. So not only do we have just a bunch of damage, we were actually able to explore 1 more floor, and not only do we get 99 of each consumable, and besides that we also get a double consumable drop after every single clear. And a lot of that are sacks, which then give us battery charges. This is just kind of unprecedented, because it's such a good combination of items, and not only just offensive items like Maw of the Void and Guppy, obviously, but also the passive consumable items, which just increase our score just because we have them, basically, and they increase our chances of actually getting some nice consumables. So, well, I didn't find a way to break the game in the sense that it would allow me to just generate a billion points of consumables. I did find this combo, which not really find, but more of a calculated risk. And the main reason for me taking the deck of cards over the Book of Sin is exactly the reason that I think you have more chances to actually get the 2 of cards. And that's just because, of course, the Book of Sin can not only give you cards, while it is a 4-room charge, it can also give you other consumables, and a lot of times it does drop something like Spirit Hearts, and that's really quite useless to us. And I would rather have a 6-charge item, which is guaranteed to give me cards, which can be the 2 of cards, than have a 4-room charge, which just has a slightly or a smaller chance to give us cards, because I think in that case that would be quite useless. But yeah, everything turned out very well in this run, and the fact we are at the 50,000 mark before we even big Mega Satan means that the end run we can expect to go over 55,000. I think something like the theoretical maximum of a daily run is around 65,000, if not a bit more. I think maybe 66,000 and maybe 67,000. So kind of getting close to that, getting 55,000 points or 56,000 points is a very, very formidable score. I think my highest score ever is around 56,000, and maybe this one beats it by just a bit. But this is up there. And surprisingly, when I check the leaderboards, of course the legit leaderboards without the hackers, every day there's a few hackers, like 30 or 40 of them, that just have a million score, which is obviously impossible. But once you filter those out, the highest score today I think was around 65,000, which is just crazy. I think it's very close to the actually theoretical maximum. And when you see and play this run, you can really see why that is. And of course that person probably not only did find a way to break the game and just get a bunch more points and just get a lot of consumables, they also managed to get hit much less. And while it worked out, at least early on, and at least later on, you might be wondering, how the hell do you get hit when you have this unholy combo of just amazing items and guppy? But it happens, of course. Anyone who's played this game obviously knows that sometimes you're just gonna end up walking into a bomb fly, or maybe a bomb fly will spawn in a weird direction, and some enemies just act naturally random. So getting the maximum theoretical score is not only just a big part of skill, it's also like 5% luck, so you eventually get hit or messed over on some of those rooms, which can be quite unpredictable. And you can see the 56,500 points mark, we do get a lot of Shrek bonus, because we still did pick a lot of consumables, and we did have 99 of every consumable, we just didn't manage to break it. The Shrek bonus can go up to 15,000, so that means that theoretically, if we didn't get hit, we would be at 60,000, and then you can add maybe like another 6,000 on top of that. So you can see that the limit on this daily is very high if you do find a way to break it. And of course, if you just didn't take damage, our end score would be over 60,000, and that is really, really high. I'm really glad that this worked out as it did, and that we managed to rank so well. And this is really nice, because just a lot of the previous dailies have been going quite well for me, and I hope we can keep this up at least until Afterbirth Plus. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.